This is Literature with Karabo Kgoleng, and Her Heart is a story by Tumelo Moleleki, and it's about how destiny has a way of bringing people together. Tsiko was looking at the portrait intently. It vividly captured the personalities of the beings depicted there. A pretty white girl whose hair was held back by a beautiful black woman, and a man of confidence who was facing away. She admired the hands whose brush gave it color and life. Now, it's just the blurb is a glimpse into these into the minds of these women and the men who sort of run their lives. Basically, what happens is, I'm going to try and lay this bare for our listeners, because I try to tweet about it, because I try and tweet a little bit of what I'm reading, so that people can tune on Sunday and they have an idea of what's been happening, during the course of the week and the books that are coming up. And with this one, you've got this man, and he has a wife.
Yes.
And then this woman visits from England. And she has left her daughter behind in England. And she and this Mosotho man get it on. And they fall in love, actually. They fall in love and they have a kid. But then the wife the woman that he's in love with, the English woman, passes away. And the child is, he insists that the child be raised by his Mosotho wife. And he's got a much older son with this wife. Who goes to England and comes back. So when we meet these people, this is when the son now is running the farm. It's two farms next door to each other. Now in England, the English woman's daughter is wondering, her mom went to Africa and she never heard from her. So she needs to go and find out what was going on there. And this is after she's been given a heart, because she had heart problems. So heart transplant, and the heart came from Africa. It turns out that the heart was the heart of the wife of the big dad, right?
Yes.
Am I following?
Yes, no, you've
Tumelo, welcome to the program. Welcome to SAfm Literature. Now, I was saying earlier that, Danielle Steel has got nothing on you, and Virginia Andrews, because they write those sort of big family sagas. You do it in 132 pages. How on earth did you get that right?
It's very weird, because, from quite a young age, I've been someone who's been very good at what you call creative writing, in that, I guess, my imagination always took me places and stuff, and I would write sometimes books, but I would never really finish them because something would always get in the way. But this particular one, I believe it kind of wrote itself, because one day I was sleeping, and then while I was asleep, I had a dream where I could see this painting that I describe in the book. And when I woke up the following morning, something told me that I had to write about that story. And, as I started writing, the words just kept spilling out of me. I couldn't believe it myself. I thought maybe, I don't know, somewhere along the way I'm going to get stuck and I won't even know, where to go or which direction the book should take. But it was almost like, it was out of my hands.
Now, Tsiko she's a cleaner in basically, right? She's like a servant in the house.
Yes.
Now, Tsiko's older brother is now running the farm,
yes.
And he lives on the farm next door. But on the farm where Tsiko lives, this English girl now who's coming to find out what happened to her mom and her heart and all of that, yes. She is basically, she runs the household of the second farm where the brother doesn't live on. And Tsiko's aware of this guy being her brother, but she's not quite sure of the circumstances and how everything ends up coming together.
Well, basically what happens is that Tsiko's father, because Tsiko basically did something that upset the father very much.
She got pregnant with a half-brother.
Yes.
And she didn't know it was a half-brother. Only the father knew. Yeah.
No, she didn't. And then, unfortunately, she miscarried that baby because, she found out about the half-brother being the half-brother in a very situation that is kind of not ideal. So basically, the father was feeling that, Tsiko is I guess one of those children who kind of grew up privileged, so they can never really be sure what they want in their life. So even at school, she would change her mind about this and about that. And so the father thought that maybe if she was to basically kind of live a
more humble life,
Yeah,
have a humbling experience.
have a humbling experience, then perhaps, you know, she might actually start appreciating what she has
Get her
and who
act
she
together.
is. And so she basically, he sends her to his son's farm, because the son sort of runs the two farms, but he runs mainly the one where Tseko was, and the other one he's helped by his other brother.
Now, all the big stories nowadays, all the big novels, they're inspired by cities. You decided to go and put it on a farm. Why in the 21st century?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I guess it's probably because of the way I grew up. That's kind of a life that I know. I didn't grow up on a farm per se, but I grew up in a place that people from Joburg and cities, they call a farm, or, you know, the rural areas.
Rural areas rule.
Yes. So basically, I mean, that is kind of a life that I know and I understand. So it was for me to relate. I mean, it was easier for me to relay the story if I took some of what I know, because then even when I explain or when I try to get the reader to come into the body or the life that I'm talking about, then at least, you know, I will not embarrass myself by describing or coming up with fictional things too much.
No, or unrealistic characters or
Yes.
unrealistic settings where it's like, this woman doesn't know what story she's trying to tell. And the issue of, because basically, you know, you have these two men around whose lives these women, around whom these women's lives revolve. And Tsiko's older brother,
Yes.
the one who's running the farm, you know, he is trying to be a man who can lead by a good example. He is not proud of his father having had the many indiscretions that he did.
Yes.
And so he's decided that he's not going to be that kind of man. You know, he marries a woman but then he falls in love with somebody else. So the way that you look at the issue of infidelity,
Yes.
and relationships outside marriage, I'm interested in the way in which you sort of approach it. Didn't have the usual sort of overt judgment where,
Yes.
you know, it's awful that this happens, but then somehow you can't help sympathizing with this guy. And I don't want to sympathize with men who cheat at all, but you know, you how do you get into the head of particularly Tsiko's older brother, you know, when he cheats on his wife, and the kind of guilt and remorse that he feels, but he keeps going back, and then he also almost blames the woman that he falls in love with for the fact that he's in love with her and he's not her wife.
Yes.
How did you get that sensitivity right?
Well, I mean, it's just, I guess, because I started reading. I've read quite I guess, different genres of books along the way, and I have quite a few male friends that, you know, I guess perhaps to some extent they feel comfortable around me, so they can sometimes talk about, you know, things that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable talking about where other women are concerned, because maybe they're not worried about me holding it against them or anything like that. But I mean, for me, it also it's kind of like also reflective somewhat of something I had to, I guess, come to terms with, because growing up I basically did not know my father, and, you know, I had my own preconceived ideas of why that was, and I was very much critical of men and unforgiving, you know, to some extent. Basically, if a man put one foot wrong, for me that was it. You know, there was like no second chance or no chance of repentance for them. Because
you do give, you know, the people who make mistakes in your story, you're able to give them some kind of redemption, which I think is incredibly generous and sort of big spirited of you. I mean, because it's very easy to just write someone into the role of the villain because it's comfortable, you know, because we like to put people in boxes like that. But you didn't do that, and I was even surprised at myself that I actually felt for this guy, because it's complicated. And then also the whole Sotho English thing. I mean, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that this is a story about Africans, especially South Africans. I was raised a South Sotho. So, I mean, Sotho is like at the heart of, I mean, I always defend the Sotho language to even my family because they always complain that it's not rich enough. Basically, it doesn't have enough vocabulary, in that you will find that sometimes one word, we use it to describe a few different things. It's just the way in which you will say it that will tell the next person, what it is that you mean. So because I wrote this book with the intention of South Africans who can basically, I mean, here, even if you're Tsonga or Shangaan, you basically can read and understand the languages, even if maybe, you might struggle here and there with some of the more complex combinations of letters and stuff. But the basic thing is that if you read it or you hear someone say it, you kind of like
you can pick it up.
Yes,
definitely.
You can pick it up.
And also, what I also like about the story, talking about the sort of intercultural thing, is that in many African families, there are a few relatives who are from Europe. Let's just face it, huh? We've got those stories, and in many white families, I'm doing inverted commas, everyone's got relatives who don't quite look like everybody else, and it's our story. It's the human story. Her Heart is published by Dorrance. It's available for 150 Rand. Congratulations on such a riveting debut.
Thank you so much.
It was
great
reading.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming in on a Sunday.
First radio station too.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's time for the Sunday Play.